Hi, my name's Dennis, and I've been a gardener for about 50 years, and tending and caring for plants have taught me some things I'd like to share with you about growing high-quality vegetables, fruits, and medicinal herbs. So thank you for coming, and welcome to my garden. Hello. This video is about the use of fava beans here and clover as a green manure. And what I found is that if I macerate or if I shred the clover and the fava beans together, I get a really high level compost. I've made a lot of mistakes doing it, but I finally found out how to do it. And I have 12 beds here that are 4 by 10. All the beds are planted with clover on the side, and my fertilizer is fava beans. So I have a regular cycle of green manure every 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks I harvest clover, I harvest fava beans, I shred them, put a little inoculate on them, and 10 days later I have a very workable compost. No manure, no trailers, no diesel fuel, no nothing. And it continually just keeps recycling, giving me a really high quality fertilization for a small garden. So let's see how to do that. So tillering is a process where you can amplify the ability of a fava bean to sequester nitrogen. Tillering comes from the idea of a tiller. Here's a little man on a boat, and this is a tiller that goes down and allows him to have a lot of leverage to turn the rudder on a large ship. You even have a tiller on an outboard motor. It's a handle to steer it. So a tiller is an extension out. And in plants, tillering is a way that they spread in order to establish more plants. So this is a picture of a wheat plant, a seed here. And the seed germinates and puts up a green shoot, but there's not a lot in the seed. So in order for that plant to really establish itself, it needs a lot more nutrition. So once a root comes out of the seed and a green shoot comes out of the top, it sends out horizontal tillers, and they hit the soil and they root out, and then they go and root out and root out, and it makes a web of grasses that now establish themselves. Grasses are not the only things that can tiller, and the fava beans have the potential to tiller in a very good way. So let's take a look at what that's about. So this is a cabbage bed. It's late July, and about a month and a half ago I dug a trench down the middle there, and it was about 18 inches wide, you can see it. And I put about 4 inches of half-ripe compost down in there, and then covered it with dirt. And then on the outside I sowed fava beans. And the fava beans germinated and came up, and then I tillered them in order to make them spread out to create more shoots. So let's take a look at that. So here's a fava bean. This was one bean, and it had one shoot right there. And when it got about that tall and started having flowers, I cut the shoot back to 2 nodes. And the reason I did that was to push the one shoot to produce a number. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4 shoots that came out of the one. Now the key is that these beans have flowers, and once a fava bean has flowers, it starts sequestering nitrogen in the root. And the more shoots with the more flowers, the more it will sequester nitrogen. So that's the purpose of tillering. So now I have these large tillers, and what I'm going to do is I'll look here and I see there's a lot of little ones coming out of the base. So I'll take these large tillers here and I'll put them in the composter. And now I'm forcing these beans to go to the side again. These will go in the compost, and I'll shred them and we'll get a really good compost out of it. Now this bean that was one has given many, but if we look down in here you can see there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, there's 10 shoots starting to tiller out. In a month, I'm going to transplant the cabbage into here, and I'll take this whole plant out at the root there, and the root will have a lot of nitrogen nodules in the bottom. The compost that's in the center will be dug in. I'll cut the roots off and I'll bury them, and then I'll put my transplanted cabbage in a very fertile bed. It's late July. That'll go on probably till August for the transplant, and by September the cabbages are going to be on a roll. So this is using fava beans to tiller out, to sequester more nitrogen, and then I can harvest the big shoots and make more compost. So it's an ongoing cycle of fertilization. So I think my cabbages will really like this bed in a month, and I'll go in and I'll turn the whole thing again before I transplant them. But that compost should be well rotted, and these roots will rot out slowly and feed the cabbages while they grow into nice heads in October and November. So this is fava beans here, and this stalk here in the fava bean is indestructible. So I have to take the favas and do that, and just strip the leaves off, put them down. And this is the clovers, and these stalks in the clovers here, they're also indestructible. So the mistake I made was that I used to just put these on a rock and pound on them with a stick and then bury them. And 2.5 months later, they still hadn't decomposed. And that created a problem going down the road. So what I had to do was learn how to macerate them with a weed whacker. But that had its own difficulty. So in the beginning, what I did, just put a post in there, couple boards. I put the fava beans and the clover there, hit it with the weed whacker, and everything went up and out into space. So, and then I tried putting a lid on it, and that didn't quite work. So then I thought, well, you know, that angle there, this angle and the pitch seemed to work. So I built a box for shredding the clover and the fava beans, and that works really good. So let me give you a picture of that. So here's my little compost box. It has that nice angle like that. So when something goes in here and the weed whacker goes, it hits here and then bounces back down. Has a little bit of a fender on this side, so when it goes in and it circulates around. And I can put a weed whacker inside the box and mess around with it, and it really does the deed. I have a little handle. It's very light. And what I found was it works best. I have a little trench here. Take the fava beans, take the green stuff off of them, because these don't really break down too well. And then take the clover, make just a little pile of that there, like that. Take my box and put that little wad up in the corner. So then I can take my weed whacker and I can shred it. And once it gets shredded, I have other compost that has been shredded about 10 days ago. And 10 days ago, this compost here smells kind of just like a cow flopper. Beautiful stuff. That was just shredded clover and fava beans 10 days ago. Pretty good. So I have this side here that I'm fermenting, and that's what it looks like. That's 10 days. So the secret there is I take some of the half-ripe and I put it in a bucket of water. I take a little can and put it in a watering can. I put the shredded stuff here and I water it down with the old fermented stuff. Then I can add more. I put the box on, I shred more, I put a little bit more of the ferment on top, cover it with some boards, and a little straw blanket. The blanket keeps it cool during the day. And in 10 days, that shredded material will be that black, beautiful compost. I dig a trench 18 inches wide in the middle of a bed. I put 4 inches of compost, cover it with dirt, and along the edges, sow more fava beans. A month and a half, 2 months later, I cut the fava beans out and put my cabbage transplants in that. And I can tell you, the cabbages are happy. Fennel, happy. Kabocha, squash, very happy. The plant compost, when it's well fermented like that, gives you a very gentle kind of growth curve. There's no shooting like you so often can get with cow manure, or not so much cow manure, but horse manure. Horse manure that I get access to, I can't get cow manure. So horse manure, when I use it, the plants just surge, and then they fail. So plant compost, especially with the clovers and the fava beans together, The growth curve is more like this rather than boom and bust. And that makes a great deal of difference with the pathogens, the fungus, and the bugs and everything. So I am a very happy camper with my green manure process going on. And since I have my little box here, I don't get, when I use a weed whacker, it doesn't get all, something that smells like cow manure all over my glasses. You know, that was not fun. So, so that box really has revolutionized this a little bit here to keep it back in, but it's the pitch of the back, and then a little bit of a lid. You can get the weed whacker in there and make short work of very tough things to make a superior compost. Thanks for watching.